If your last name is or Lei or Chin, or there is a real chance it is not the name your family was born with, it might be a name someone paid a stranger for. Lei Chen RG. 10 surnames carried by millions of Chinese American families today. For 61 years, one of them could be legally worthless without a memorized lie behind it. Before you learn how that worked, I have to introduce one object, a small handwritten book studied in secret that decided whether a 9-year-old boy would ever see his father again. So this is not a video about whether your surname sounds Chinese. It is about one specific kind of federal paperwork and what it can still prove about your family today. Stay to the end. One of these 10 names belonged to a 9-year-old who was smuggled in under a stranger's identity and grew up to paint the most famous forest in American film. But first, I have to take something away from you. And Li are two of the most common Chinese surnames on Earth, going back centuries before any of this began. Millions of and Li's descend from families who never once touched a false document. The sound of the name proves absolutely nothing by itself. What actually proves something is one exact kind of paper, a federal case file, a sworn interrogation transcript, a name inside one specific folder in one specific year. And that is the strange turn at the center of this whole story. The government could not physically keep every Chinese immigrant out, so it built an entire bureaucracy to interrogate their names instead. So think about the name on your own passport, the one you have never questioned. Do you know which port it actually passed through? Hold that thought. May the 6th, 1882, Congress passes the Chinese Exclusion Act. It is the first law in American history to ban immigration by name of race. Laborers were banned outright. Residents already here could never become citizens. A narrow exception existed for merchants and their children. The law was meant to last 10 years. It lasted 61. Then, April 18, 1906, an earthquake and the fire that followed burned San Francisco's City Hall to the ground, along with every birth record it held. Suddenly, any Chinese man in San Francisco could claim he had been born there, an American citizen by birth. No paper existed anywhere to prove otherwise. And birthright citizenship meant something enormous. It meant his children, even children born in China, could legally claim the right to immigrate as citizens too. Overnight, a citizenship claim became something with a price. A newly minted American citizen could sell a son's slot on his family tree to a completely unrelated boy back in Guangdong. Would you have paid for that slot if it meant a real future for your child? So a quiet trade took shape between villages in one province and one bay in California. It ran almost entirely on memory, not paper. A real citizen family would sell a slot to an unrelated boy, then hand over or sell a coaching book. Pages of details about a village he had never lived in, a family he did not belong to. Which door faced east, how many pigs the family owned and where they were penned, the names and ages of cousins, including ones who had already died, the exact location of the village well. Boys studied these books for the entire month-long crossing of the Pacific. Then, just before landing, the books were burned or torn apart and thrown into the ocean. Picture that crossing, a boy alone or with his father, reciting a dead family's furniture out loud in the dark, knowing one wrong answer could end the trip before it started. Then the ship reached a small island in San Francisco Bay. Not island. This gate had a different name and a very different reputation. Angel Island Immigration Station processed roughly 1 million people over 30 years. Historians estimate about 175,000 of them were Chinese and detained specifically to be interrogated. Interrogators separated the applicant from his supposed relatives already in America, then asked each of them the same obscure question: how many steps from your door to the village well? If his number matched the number his paper father gave weeks or months earlier in a separate room, that detail counted as proof. If it did not, that detail could end everything. Try it on yourself for a second. How many steps from your own front door to your own mailbox? Now imagine your future depending on giving the exact same answer your father gave, unrehearsed, weeks apart. Some detainees were released within days, most waited weeks or months. Some, appealing a rejection, were held on that island for more than 2 years of their lives. Every one of those interrogations produced a file. Question by question, contradiction by contradiction, written down by a clerk who suspected correctly that the kinship in front of him was invented. Some detainees carved poetry into the barrack walls while they waited. Grief, anger, homesickness in classical Chinese verse, cut directly into the wood with a knife or a fingernail. Try to picture waiting that long for an answer you cannot control. That poetry was almost erased twice, once by design, since the whole point of a coaching book was leaving no trace, and again in 1970, when a park ranger named Alexander found it, days before the barracks were scheduled for demolition. So here are the 10 surnames that show up over and over across those same federal files. Not a guess, a documented pattern in a real archive. Lee Chin, G. Family associations built entirely around these names ran networks that moved thousands of paper sons through this exact system. Those associations were not criminal gangs hiding in shadows. They ran open meeting halls, funded schools, and buried their members. Helping a paper son was, to them, an act of loyalty, not a crime against anyone. Would you have called that loyalty or fraud? If you carry one of these 10 names, that does not mean your family used this exact route. It means the National Archives is a genuinely useful place to go looking. Have you ever actually searched your own surname there? Now the boy from the coaching book. He was born October 25, 1910, in a farming village in County, Guangdong Province. In 1920, at 9 years old, he and his father boarded a ship for America. Neither of them was traveling under his real name. His father traveled as a merchant named Look Get. His son traveled as Look Tai Yao, the supposed son of an American citizen named Look. Neither name belonged to them by blood. The crossing took a month. A 9-year-old spent it memorizing a stranger's household, the same way thousands of other paper sons had before him. Could you have held a lie that steady at that age for 30 straight days? December 30th, 1920, the ship reached Angel Island. He was the only child detained there that month. His father was held separately, exactly as the system required. Picture a 9-year-old alone in a barracks full of adults, waiting to be questioned about a house he had never lived in. Would you have kept the lie straight at 9 years old for weeks? After roughly a month he passed. Father and son were reunited in Sacramento. A school teacher there, unable or unwilling to pronounce Tai Yao, simply renamed him. The name stuck for the rest of his life. Grew up poor, largely without his mother, who he never saw again after leaving China. He drew constantly. A scholarship got him into art school. Talent got him into the film industry. In the late 1930s, Disney was struggling to make a forest feel like more than painted scenery. Pastel sketches, built on Song Dynasty Chinese landscape painting, became the visual language of the entire film. Fog, negative space, a few suggested branches instead of every leaf. Disney personally chose style over the studio's usual dense, literal backgrounds. Looks the way it looks because of him. In 1941, animators at Disney went on strike. Chose not to join them. He felt the studio had treated him fairly. He was laid off anyway in the bitterness that followed, with a full year of work still left on. He spent the next 26 years at Warner Brothers as a concept artist, shaping the look of dozens of films, from westerns to Doris Day musicals, largely uncredited by the wider public. Think about that shape. A 9-year-old lies his way past a federal interrogator to enter the country, and grows up to design the way tens of millions of people picture a forest in their minds. He was finally named a Disney legend in 2001, 60 years after being let go. He lived to 106, still building giant kites on the beach almost every week. He died on December 30th, 2016. That is not a coincidence I am adding for effect. It is exactly 96 years to the day after a 9-year-old named Look Tai Yao first stepped onto Angel Island. So why did an entire country run this exact machine, generation after generation, for 61 years? Ask yourself who the system was actually protecting. Renewed in 1892, made permanent in 1902, kept alive for decades by organized political pressure, not by any actual evidence it was needed. It was finally repealed in 1943, and largely because China had become a wartime ally. Notice that reason, not mainly justice. Mainly because excluding an ally by name had become an embarrassment in the middle of a war. But repeal did not erase 61 years of false papers already in circulation. Between 1956 and 1965, the government ran something called the Confession Program. Confess your real name and your paper identity, and you could keep your legal status. 11,336 people came forward. Another 19,124 were named by them. The offer of mercy came with a catch. To confess, you were often expected to name everyone else you knew who had also lied. It tore at trust inside a community that had survived on exactly that trust for 60 years. Would you have confessed, knowing the price was your own neighbor's safety? Some people carried their paper name quietly for the rest of their lives rather than pay it. Which brings us back to you. If you carry one of these 10 names, the real question was never whether it sounds Chinese enough. It is whether your family's paper trail actually runs through a coaching book and an interrogation room like these, or simply through a village that never sent anyone through this exact door. Here is the strange final turn. Those interrogation files, built entirely to catch people lying, are now the single best paper trail Chinese-American genealogists have. The deception became the record. Chinese Exclusion Act case files are digitized and searchable today through the National Archives by name for free. Not a DNA test, an actual federal file with an actual name inside it. So tell me in the comments, which of these 10 surnames sits somewhere in your family tree? Did anyone ever tell you why the paper trail starts where it does? If you want more of this, more real files, more names with an actual paper trail behind them, there's a lot more waiting on this channel.